Hey guys, hope everything is going well. You guys know that drill. Smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't, and comment down below. Alrighty, I may have one of my buddies coming on the stream today, but let's take a look at some of the comments down below. And by the way, this week I'm not going to be doing as many videos. I'm probably going to slice and dice some of the videos, interviews that I've done. So make sure to take a look at that. And yeah, let's start with the comments. Hashtag Raro knows it's time to pump the hanky panky. You know it, man. Anthony says, let's bring on some schwanky panky. Oh, yeah. Anthony says, I got a hankering for some pankering. Okay. Jay says, hey, Anthony, what's up? Smiley face. Anthony says, don't be withholding my panking. Would love to see AIH at the National with a megaphone denouncing hobby hanky panky. Would go viral for sure. They'd probably kick me out. You got your seatbelt? Okay, that's great. Hanky panky time? Oh, yep. Yep, I got my Bulls warm-up gear. Right? Remember when MJ used to say, what time is it, guys? Game time. Whoo! Remember that? Back in the day? Anthony says, Hank Gun will pankle. Okay. This vintage popcorn. Oh, yeah. Most definitely popcorn. Okay. So let me look at Josh Luber's paper again because, you know, a lot of people like Josh Luber, but we got to examine this hype cycle. And you could go to trading card cools again, or trading cards. Yeah, trading cards are cool again. So just go to that and go to the part where it says the logic is pretty simple. Okay. And it says step 1, create limited release products where demand exceeds supply. Okay, we know that part. Step 2, flame the demand imbalance to generate brand heat and hype that comes from kids lining up to buy your t-shirts or causing the latest drop to trend on Twitter. So step 2 is really interesting. Let me go to step 3 and then I'm going to talk about step 2 and step 3. Step 3, translate the heat into thousands of new customers and loyalists such that you can increase supply and capture more profit while maintaining the scarcity of step 1. So, in my opinion, what's going on is all these companies, you could say even other companies out there outside of sports cards, what they do, in my opinion, they try to run this hype train and this is how many people actually end up getting burned and a lot of people end up leaving the hobby. So one good example, last year there was NBA Top Shot. So if you guys remember with NBA Top Shot, there was a lot of hype going on YouTube. A lot of people were talking about it. And there's this one guy on YouTube. I don't know if you've heard of him. I watched him back in 2020 and 2021, and his name was Matt Sokol. And I asked the question one time on IG. He follows me on IG, and I think he watches some of my videos too. And I asked the question, are influencers getting kickbacks? And what Matt responded, I remember he did a video about this as well. He said that there were, he was approached to hype up NBA Top Shot. He refused because he did not believe in this product. So a lot of people are asking me, hey, what proof do you have that other people are getting kickbacks? Well, first of all, no one's going to admit it. And the only people that are going to admit anything about kickbacks is the fact that, guess what? Are people that don't accept the kickbacks. So the thing is that a lot of people were hyping it. They got kickbacks. And if you look at this Josh Luber paper, right? It says step 2, flame the demand imbalance to generate brand heat and hype that comes from kids lining up to buy your t-shirts or causing the latest drop to trend on Twitter. Okay, so it's a little different here. So how did they flame the demand imbalance for NBA Top Shot? According to Matt Sokol, or just inferring from Matt Sokol and what he said, it appears that people were being paid to hype it up. And if you remember, towards the end of this hype, you have to remember that number one, I'm going to bring on my buddy Don here. He's going to be talking with me, and he's been in some of my videos in the past. But let's go on. Hey, Don, how's it going, man?
It's going good. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, it's great. It's good. It's been a long time since we've done a video, and this time it's a live stream, so we see comments down below. I don't know if you could see them if you just go on YouTube.
Are you on YouTube, or where is this at?
Yeah, it's on YouTube, so just go there. I'll send you the link.
Yeah, just send it to me on Facebook.
Yeah. Hold on a second. So in the meantime, yeah, I was just talking about hype and just what goes on in the market. But hey, Don, can you explain why you left the sports card hobby? It was like close to a year ago, for those that don't know your story.
Well, the short version is that once I saw grown men fighting in Targets, and Costco's over football cards, it reminded me a whole lot of the early to mid 1990s. And it's just a cycle that we've been through before. And then the number of ridiculously priced graded cards, I think graded cards have become the new non-graded cards, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Just there's so much supply, and the level of lunacy that grown men have found themselves involved in told me it was not really something on a retail level that I wanted to be involved in buying and selling those overpriced cards.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. So why do you think a lot of people didn't see this coming? I mean, I was looking at the videos last year. People were hyping or people are jumping up and down about a Pokemon Charizard sale, which was about $500,000. And then people are predicting, hey, man, this thing is going to go up to $1 million. And one of the guys involved in the deal was involved with the Logan Paul, shenanigans out there. It just seems pretty strange.
Well, I think that I don't know what kind of language I can use. I like to use language that's fairly specific. Do you remember when what was that guy? The guy that said he'd eat his own wiener if Bitcoin didn't go to 1 million. Remember that?
I don't remember who said that.
That was the guy that did someone in chat will know. Who was it? It was the guy that did some big internet. Anyway, the point is, you'll know him when you see it. But, it's always the same. It was the same with every bubble that we've ever been through. The difference is the first bubbles I was going through, first I had a full head of hair. Then I had some hair left, and now I don't have any hair. So when I talk about a bubble now, I'm always going to be the old guy saying we've been here before. So then now you're the younger guy, and you'll have to try to explain it. It's the same thing. Bitcoin, all of these. I mean, Bitcoin went to 70,000. Now it's true that I didn't see that happening. Okay, I also wasn't making pronouncements of eating my own wiener if it didn't go somewhere. But it moved down from 70,000 to 24,000 last week or so. That's an implosion. And by the way, this came right after all of those ads running on the Super Bowl and all of those celebrities like Matthew McDonough or whatever that guy's, Matt Damon, guys like Matt Damon coming out and Tom Brady and pushing people in, literally pushing people in at the very top. So you can just replace sports cards with Bitcoin, with Dogecoin, and NFTs or whatever. I saw an NFT that sold for $2 million. now they can't get $2,000 out of, not even a year later. It's always the same. It's just, I don't know how to explain it. If you live through enough of them, they all look and smell the same.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of the silver days. And you called out the BS over a decade ago. I didn't see it at first, and then I eventually picked up on it. So, my question for you is, what was the worst fraud that you saw in silver and gold? And maybe I could relate it to what's going on in sports cards.
The worst fraud?
Yeah.
Well, look at what Northwest Territorial Mint. They outright took people's money and went out of business and declared bankruptcy. I was taken for some money in that myself. Then there was the what's his name? The guy from the AO American
Mint? Was it? Did
Yeah,
he do a deal with Chris Dwayne or something?
yeah. Rob, what's his name? That guy.
Yeah.
He had a bunch of silver missing. But outside of that, the thing about silver was, and this is the thing that I tried to explain to people about silver, was that when you go to a retailer and something's at an all-time high price, and forget silver, let's just say it's anything you're ever going to buy, and you go to a retailer and that retailer says, the thing I'm going to sell you is worth more than the dollars you're going to give me. Now, if that's the case, you have to ask which one of you in that transaction is the moron. One of you is not smart. And then when you realize that when it came to silver, the retailers were buying from wholesalers who took cash, and the wholesalers were buying from the mints who took cash, and the mints were getting their silver from mining companies which took cash, and the mining companies were owned almost exclusively by banks. And you can go right now and you can look at the holdings of all of these mining companies. They're almost exclusively held by banks. So at the very beginning of the chain, you had bankers who would make money on every part of the transaction. And the upshot, and this is the one that I couldn't believe people didn't see, I tried to tell people, JP Morgan, the terrible, scandalous, short-selling JP Morgan, were the custodian for the ETF SLV and the bank, and are still the bank for APMEX, the largest retailer of silver in the world. So all these people talking about silver going to the moon and silver was going to, people like Brother John F. talking about silver was going to go to parity with gold, and recording a video with your friend over at what that young kid, what's his name?
Was it John? He's not young anymore.
Not young anymore, but the one who the video guy, the economist guy, what was his name?
John from Wall Street. I mean, he's John.
No, not him. No, the young kid.
Young kid, Elijah Johnson?
Elijah, yeah. So Brother John F. was in a video with him saying that silver was going to go to parity with gold and that you'd be buying houses with 5 ounces of silver. These people were lunatics. And if they weren't lunatics, they were wildly misguided. So when you hear claims like this, you hear these extreme claims about the value of things, and prices are going straight up, and everyone around you wants to buy it, then that should be a tell. And I want to, if I can, give you one story. I know I've told you this before, but maybe your listeners haven't heard this.
Yeah.
I had a maid who, for years, I offered to sell, to pay her in silver, when silver was, let's say, $10 an ounce to $15 an ounce. Well, she didn't want any silver at 10 to 15 an ounce. When silver hit 35, she begged to be paid in silver. And I told her at the time, I said, I feel bad, paying you in silver. It's I don't know, it's just never, it could be Pokemon or Beanie Babies or whatever the next thing is. Someone is going to get burned. And so my best advice, although you didn't ask it, my best advice is don't try to get tops or bottoms, and don't worry about the hate you're going to take selling something on the way up or the mockery you'll hear on the way down. Just buy when it's cheaper, sell when it's higher, and try to do it often.
Oh yeah, definitely buy low and sell high. I wanted to tell you this story. I've been involved in, you could say, silly drama or beef, but basically, there are people in the hobby, they keep on moving from one item to the other. So sports cards have taken a hit. So they moved into, you can't believe this, Marvel PMGs. They had a huge run up, which I believe was, part of a pump and dump scheme. And then while Marvel PMGs cratered over the past few months, they moved on to Star Wars.
And wait,
And
what are PMGs?
precious metal gems, like the MJ card from the late 1990s,
You
1990s.
can't be serious. You cannot be serious. What you
No,
just told me, what you just told me, you've got to be joking. You're not telling me they're coming out with those things again.
Yeah, so with the Marvel card, I know you don't follow this as much as others, though. Because you're not following it as much. So some Marvel PMGs, one of them sold for 88,000 on Golden, so something ridiculous. And then that same card sold for about $20,000 the last few months. But I want to tell you, so now they've gone to Star Wars. So there's one dude, he found a card. It looks nice. It's a Kurosawa card from 2021, modern card. He got it from the pennies on the dollar. He said it's his grail. So he flipped his grail card, right? So called for a grail card in about a month or two. He sold it to his buddy for $5,000. I've been calling this guy out many times. So he sells it to a sports card influencer. It's graded. He grades it, and it's a high grade. And he sells it for about 16,500. And then now, if you look at any other Star Wars card, if you look at a Luke Skywalker card, PSA 10 sold for $55,000. Okay. This was October of last year. Okay. This is now going back to this example. Okay. So then there's video. I see this title for that card the dude bought for 16,500. I'm looking at the title and it says, "Is my Star Wars card worth over $100,000?" That is about 2 times the valuation of the Luke Skywalker card in a PSA 10 before the market even created further in sports cards. What do you have to say about, titles like this?
Well, I'm going to broaden the topic out just a little bit if I can.
Yeah.
If you have a channel, let's say you've got 1 million subscribers.
Yeah.
I don't care what you talk about. If you get 1 million people in front of you and you come out and say, listen, I'm looking for 100 people to sell soap door to door with me starting Monday morning. You'll have 100 people lined up at your house on Monday morning to sell soap door to door. That doesn't mean that selling soap door to door is a good idea. It just means that in any group of people, you'll find enough rubes who follow you just about anywhere. And what these guys are doing in terms of their videos and the titles of the videos and the things that they're promoting is pure hucksterism. There's no other word for it. You can't come up with a better word for it. And if you want to see the definition of what these guys are, go look at Don West from the 1990s. If you want to see what the YouTube influencer was 25 years ago, it was a guy named Don West who was promoting, selling, whatever. Just wildly overpriced cards on late night TV, which was the precursor to the YouTube influencer. So it's sad because no matter how big your channel is, and here's the real sad part, you will come out and you will tell people this is going to crash, it's going to burn, it's going to fall, the floor is going to fall through. And the audience of someone, now listen, this is key, an audience of someone with 100,000 people who are truly invested in believing in something, all it will take is 1 in 1,000 of those people to hate you, to make your life miserable for what in the end will turn out to be the truth. That's the sad part about all of this. It's always the same. It never changes.
Yeah. And I saw a long post directed towards me on Instagram without mentioning my name that I'm being negative, I'm bad for the hobby, and this person saying that I'm trying to collect and I'm trying to bring good to the hobby, and every type of negative news is totally bad. I should be canceled. People should stop watching me because some of the comments in my videos or the live streams become nasty, and sometimes I may not be nice in my videos calling this out. So I don't understand this. Are they trying to, do they just want to be as positive as possible to pump this up? Like, what do you think, like from an outsider? You're not looking at the markets as intensely as I am. This market, that is.
Well, I mean, again, this is so old school, and I don't even know if any. First of all, I don't even know if any of your viewers ever saw any of my videos. So whatever. But back in the day, I had death threats. Man, I had death threats. I was doing videos about silver, telling people I was selling my silver when silver hit 22 and a half. From there to 50, every 15 or 20% higher, I would take some off the table. And every time I did, I got threats and name calling and insults. There are people like, I don't know if I'm not going to name too many names here, but there's some folks who were very public and very big names, people that I respected, who just were blasting me. The reason I'm saying this to you is because in the space you're in, there are people, and I know this, who have created their own cards. Fine, fair enough, whatever. And they're just drawings that like my 5-year-old could have done, and they're selling those for thousands of dollars a box. So the people selling those products, they're making a lot of money. You saying anything realistic, well, you're going to come between them and some of that stream of income, and that makes you a bad person in their mind by definition because they don't have any integrity. You suffer from something that they don't suffer from. You have integrity. You see, so integrity means you'll tell the truth, and that's on the way up. And remember, if you're buying when things are moving down, you're going to be called crazy and early, and they'll say that you're a shill for whatever it is that you're buying. However, on the way up, if you're saying to sell, then you'll be the opposite. You'll be a doom and gloomer, and you'll be spreading FUD or whatever it's called, and they'll say that you're a shill for the bankers. They'll have it both ways. You just have to keep doing what you're doing, and what you're doing is great. You're telling people the truth. Your audience may never, they may never be down there where they're slobbing on your knob, but you'll have an audience full of people with integrity, and that's important.
Yeah, for the most part, the comments are, appropriate. Some are not. That's how it is when I don't block people for the most part. But you're talking about drawings of animals. So I bet you were talking about Gary Vee. Was that what you're alluding to?
Yes.
Okay. So what I found quite interesting, and on eBay, a few months ago, there were all these cards that were just hyped up like crazy. This was Fanatics's first cards that they released, and it had Gary Vee's name on it, and he's very popular, as you know. And these were shilled like crazy, and a secondary market, and no one was talking about it. It was ridiculous.
Can I say something about the shilling for a second?
Yeah.
I don't know how many people will watch me in this video. I don't know. But here's what you need to know. If you're buying cards with pictures of animals that were drawn in a style that you yourself could draw, and you're paying anything over the cost of whatever it costs to print those things, then for every penny higher, the people selling those to you are getting one more laugh at your expense because they cannot believe. They cannot believe it's happening. They can't believe they have created something so worthless, so completely vapid and insignificant, and yet people will pay them for it and pay them thousands and thousands of dollars. Just realize if you're the one buying those things, you're either the dummy or you're going to have to find someone else dumber than you to turn a profit on. That's just not a business model that I would want to be a part of.
Yeah, and then I was earlier on in this live stream before you came on, I was talking about Luber's paper and how, the way that he saw it in the sneakers game, because he ran StockX, is that, you try to ride the hype game, and what he's trying to do in Fanatics, in my opinion, he's trying to manage that cycle. So, I mean, I don't want to throw in some conspiracy theories, but I don't know if Fanatics or some people close to them were involved, in that shilling. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Maybe the breakers. I mean, it was ridiculous. And like news is coming about breakers these days and all these shady videos.
Okay, so there's a couple comments that people have left. I want to address if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
Like here, someone says, I want cricket cards to be the next type. Someone says lacrosse. Someone mentioned Kevin Moss, which, by the way, Kevin Moss was a guy who hit about 5 home runs over about a 3-game span back in 1990 for the Yankees. And everyone went crazy for his cards for about 15 minutes. Kevin Moss, look him up. But there's nothing wrong with cricket cards. There's nothing wrong with cards with drawings on them. There's nothing wrong with any of this. If you want to collect something, what I'm saying is that the people that are doing this, they're selling these products, I do not believe, I could be wrong, I don't believe they seriously think there's any value to these things. I don't believe that. I could be wrong. Is there any value in collecting Kevin Moss cards? Even if you like Kevin Moss, sure. Cricket cards and lacrosse cards, sounds good. But there's a big difference between what we're seeing in the hobby today and even what happened in the 90s. There was overproduction in the 90s. That is true. But the level of outright telling people these are investments, that is new. That's something that hasn't. And the problem is, it's so unregulated. Who regulates the sports cards? YouTube influencers. Is it the FTC? Is it the SC? Who does it? Who says a card isn't worth? Hold on, look here. I've got who is this guy? Terrence McGee. This is a Topps 2019 Alliance of American Football. All right. Now, who says I can't say this is worth $1 million and find someone to buy it for $1 million? Yes, I can do that. But I think there's a level of irresponsibility that comes when these guys have these channels with all these subscribers and pushing out product that they themselves have their hands on. It is a silver stacker's dream. So, not silver stacker, silver retailer's dream. Imagine being able to create something that cost pennies to make, and they will pay you thousands and thousands of dollars for. That's the problem I've got with this whole thing.
Yeah. Let me read this comment by Charles Fuchs. He used to be in the silver game back in the day, and he's pretty big on Instagram. And he's stacking gems on IG. So he says the whole world is hype. Gold, cards, stocks, real estate, cryptos, casino, blank products, everything you could complain all your life or play the game. Take full responsibility, victims. So what do you say to... I understand that we have to take responsibility. Now, what do you have to say to that?
Well, first of all, I've followed Charles's work for years, and his comments have always been illustrative of a mindset of logic and critical thinking. And so there's a part of me that agrees with him just because it's from him. However, I like to look at this a little bit differently. 20 years ago, when I first started doing videos, well, I guess 2006, whatever that was, 16 years ago, that's kind of how I felt. It was, I was very much Ayn Rand. Hey, listen, it's all on you. You make your choices, whatever. However, the access to information that people have these days, and the speed with which information is thrown at people, and the disparate sources of information that will collude. I mean, you've got Wall Street now coming out with investing products for cards. You've got YouTubers talking about it. And you've got card shop owners, all of them saying the same thing. So it's kind of like blaming someone for going to their doctor, and then another doctor, and watching someone on TV and reading a magazine article. At some point, yes, it is on you to make the decision. But don't the sources of information have to be held to account? Now, I don't want to get too political here. I'm, as you know, a libertarian. I don't like government involvement in just about anything. But there are some times when I think maybe there needs to be some regulation of something. When it comes to sports cards, haven't we reached the point now where it's literally, when you're talking about it as an investment vehicle, shouldn't that come with certain responsibility? So I agree with Charles Fuchs. I also can see the other side of the coin, that there should be some responsibility for the people who disseminate the information in the first place.
The thing is that I believe I don't want the government coming into this. I mean, it's already a mess as it is. I believe in more, if first of all, free market regulation, call out the BS. There's my channel. I'm a small channel, but there's other channels that are big that are calling it out, and they're just being labeled as negative. And whatever it is, I'm being labeled as negative. That's fine. And I think overall, if you call this stuff out and more people are aware to this, I think that's overall positive for the
Look,
hobby.
I've been banned from so many news groups in so many forums for being negative. I wear it with a badge of honor. The moment someone says I'm too negative, I feel like I've done something good, because I get people all the time who will send me messages and say, please keep preaching it. Some of us are listening. You've helped turn me around. Don't stop. You have to understand that 99%, a vast majority of people, they don't know what they're talking about. They don't care that they don't know what they don't know what they're talking about. They don't want you telling them that they don't know what they're talking about, and they're comfortable paying through the nose, even if they lose everything they've got, because all they've got are two nickels to rub together anyway. These are the people who are saying that you're negative. The people who are honoring your work and who are proud and happy to watch your videos are the people who are not burned right now, who weren't buying at the top last year. That's your audience. Those are the ones who are going to be with you, and those are the ones that you're serving.
Oh yeah, I remember some of the people that were there. The video that you did with me, was it February or March? This was close to the top. It was called Epic Crash Coming in Sports Cards, and you hit the nail. I mean, and that video should have gotten a lot more views, but then some of the views that say, hey, I got a Pokemon card, at the ultimate top, hundreds of thousands of views. And I'm not knocking on the guy that made the transaction. I'm just saying, like, I mean, you got to look at it. Okay, why is this being promoted at that moment? And then now in a downturn, people are watching me. It's just really odd. And then people just keep on saying negative this and this and that. I'm like, okay. I mean, like, I'm fine with people saying that. It's just,
There's a movie that I saw back in the early 80s that came out when I was a kid. And I don't remember what year it came out, but it's a movie called Hardcore. It stars George C. Scott. In that movie, he plays like a preacher, and him and his daughter, his daughter's like 18 in the movie, they go on a church trip out to California. Now, getting on the bus to head back to Indiana or whatever they were from, his daughter was missing and one of her friends was missing. So the movie is about his search for his daughter who went missing in California. Now, as it turns out, she ends up in porn. And this is the porn of the 1970s, which has really looks like rated G compared to what they're doing these days. But the movie has a very long arc that's painful, especially if you're a father, to watch as he's going to find his daughter. So he travels around the country, goes to California, pretends to be a porn producer, and the movie, it's just a crescendo of despair and horror as this guy has to watch his daughter in porn to then find her and then go in and save her from this world of porn. Now, remember, when I watched the movie, I was like 10 or 11 years old. So and I don't know if you can see this coming or not, no pun intended, but the punchline in the movie, the crescendo, was where at the end of the movie, he goes into a scene, I think he might even have killed somebody along the way, and he goes to pull his daughter out. It's some terrible BDSM scene or something. And she stops him. And she says, Dad, what are you doing? This is what I want to do. It's my life. This is what I want. And I can remember being a 12-year-old kid or whatever, and that shattered my reality. I thought, well, he was going to save his daughter, right? It's by the way, not a movie for kids. If you're 10 or 12-year-old or watching it, it's not for my recommendation. But to the point about sports cards and to Charles Fuchs's discussion of people sort of having to take responsibility, there's another weird thing about life. There are things people will do that are crazy, financially nuts, and they may know they're nuts, but they're addicts. They can't stop. For whatever reason, they just keep going deeper and deeper. And it could be anything, silver and gold and Bitcoin and sports cards and comic books, crack cocaine. It could be cigarettes or CBD or whatever people are doing. And that movie really opened my eyes at a very young age that sometimes the answer is the reason you can't understand, Rahul, is because you're not a masochist. You ever thought about it? You like to win. You like to be successful. And there are some people, I hate to be so blunt, who like being bent over. They like being losers. They like being taken. And that's a variable that in this industry in sports cards, couple that with the already grown men infantilized, following other grown men with jerseys on, and you have a recipe for financial destruction for a lot of people that you'll never save.
That's a very good point. Earlier on, you talked about Wall Street and the banks, and how they had a huge pie in the gold and silver industry. And what I noticed in February and March of last year, I saw headlines, and some people I know that I like, they're covering that, hey, Wall Street's getting in, this could be good. And I was thinking like, oh, hell no. Wall Street's getting in. That's a huge warning sign.
And you and I talked about this. I don't know if we talked about it on your video, but you and I talked about that these auction sites and Wall Street and all of that, you just know that is the moment people are about to get fleeced. And I don't want to go all the way back to something we talked about earlier, but look at what happened with cryptocurrencies. Go back, look at the commercials in November, December, January, from about February of this year till about October of last year. And people were driven in like cattle. And Charles Fuchs makes a good point. But what do you say to somebody who's maybe 18, 19 years old, and they're looking up to these folks, and they're trusting these people? I know we all get burned, and at some point we have to learn a lesson. But I just think there needs to be some accountability. And if you're going to tell people that sports cards are an investment vehicle, you have to have the same regulation as every other investment vehicle has. I don't like regulation, but you cannot continue to shove this stuff out and tell people you're going to get rich with this. It's beyond my understanding how the authorities haven't gotten involved. It might be because Wall Street's involvement, and maybe that's why the feds haven't gotten involved yet.
Okay, John Wolf says, how would you regulate it?
Well, I would put the same exact muzzle on people that they did with banks back in the early 2000s. This Chinese wall dividing one side of the bank from the other. So you could not have it be that the bank that's selling you the stock could also be promoting the stock and being paid for said promotion. So you have to have some division. You'd have to have some disclaimer, even if slight. There has to be a disclaimer. I mean, if you say to me, hey, listen, this could all go to zero, but here's my opinion, that's fair enough. But to come out and say, if you buy this from me, look at this chart, look at what it did, this is what you're going to do, you can't do that. So you have to have, at the minimum, regulate the things they can say. In other words, you can't be talking your book. It's like Jim Cramer back in the day came on, and you can find this video on YouTube. He talked about fomenting the market pre-market. And what Jim Cramer would do is stocks he already owned or stocks he had sold, he would come out and foment a story on the opposite side of that pre-market when liquidity was very low. Well, as it happens, that's super illegal. And Jim Cramer admitted to doing it, and that got Cramer taken off of CNBC for a while because it's illegal. And I don't know why he didn't go to jail, but that's a whole other story. The point is, you have to have some dividing wall between the retail and the analyst, at a minimum. If they would do that, at least they'd be honest about it. And I think that a regulatory agency like the SEC ought to get involved.
Yeah, I'm not too in favor of the government coming in. I mean, this is not that big of a market compared to stocks. I don't like the hyping. I don't like what I believe to be. I do believe there are kickbacks involved with people on YouTube and people in this industry. But that being said, that's why I like the free market regulation where just calling it out the way that I see it. Doesn't mean that I'm going to be right 100% of the time, but I'm sure that a lot of people have definitely picked up on this.
Well, I mean, we've been friends for a long time, and you
Yeah.
know that I'm not some sort of lefty lunatic.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Right.
there are some things I think that, excuse me, regulation is not necessarily a bad thing for. I mean, if you're going to have access to the airwaves to say whatever you want, free speech is fine, but there is a consequence for lots of things that you might say. And when it comes to financial advice, there has got to be some disclaimers. I'm not arguing that the government should shut you down for saying things are going to go up and then they drop. That's how things go. But you cannot continue to call it investment without the same regulation. Let me put it this way. Either take away the regulation on everything from Bitcoins to real estate to gambling in general, take those regulations away, or regulate sports cards. Because sports cards anymore, can we just be real? Nobody is spending $1,500 on a box of Score Select or whatever the new product is because they're wanting to collect some cards. Okay, it's all about finding that next hit. It's all about the breaking. We all know this, so let's at least be adult about it and do it without blinders on. That's all I'm saying.
Let's read some kickbacks. BK Sports Cards. There are lots of kickbacks. Some channels already have an affiliation with Fanatics. That's facts, not made up. All right, Brett S says personal responsibility is becoming a scarcity in itself. So, I wanted to ask you. So, when you said you got out of the market over a year ago, so what will make you get back in? I still believe right now, before you answer it, prices are overinflated. I think for me to get back in aggressively, I would have to find a huge market crash when people start to get more salty. What do
Okay,
you?
yeah. So let me tell you what'll get me back in, and I'm going to show you what I got in the mail the other day. So you'll see me open something that's been sitting around.
Yeah.
Because I'm actually always in the market. I'm not an active participant in the way that I would have been until prices come down and dramatically. Now, I've been told prices are not going to come down any more than they already have. I don't believe that. So I'll be buying things at discounts. That's my belief. But I buy graded cards that are low population and at prices I believe are undervalued. And if I can get my X-Acto knife together, I'll show what I got in the mail here. Here we go. All right, so this is what I got in the mail the other day, and I'm going to ask you what you think a fair value price on this is. Now, you're not going to see a Jordan rookie, but it's a pretty cool card. Here we go. You're watching me open something live, so hang on. Here we go. All right, here it is. It is. I see you see this.
Little reflection. Hakeem Olajuwon, 1991 Upper Deck PSA 10, number
Yes.
254.
Yeah. So it's an Upper Deck Hakeem Olajuwon Gem Mint PSA 10. Now, how much does it cost to get a card graded?
Right now, it's really expensive, like $50. No, there's economy back, so maybe what? I don't know what the prices are.
So I got this PSA 10 Olajuwon for $14. That was delivered.
Shipped, okay.
Yeah. So I'll buy something like this all day long. It's not a matter of whether I'm going to be in the market. It's a matter of whether I'm going to buy things at prices that make sense. And if I can get something at less than the cost of grading, it's a 32-year-old card or whatever it is, then I'm into that. What I'm not into is buying stickers, autographs on stickers on the 75th rainbow variation of some scrub chasing today. I'm not interested in that.
That makes sense. So do you still think that when the market crashes, that's a good time to be very aggressive? I see a lot of young guys like really aggressive, throwing tens of thousands of dollars in cards, and I'm thinking to myself, someone's going to be left holding the bag, and there's going to be a lot of salty people. I mean, there's a lot of salty people right now over the past year as prices have gone down. I mean, if I have the means, that's when I want to aggressively be buying, total market meltdown.
Well, I don't know where young people get their money these days. I suspect it's because 40% of people under the age of 30 are living at home with their parents. And when you get everything from stimulus money to wages now across the board, and they don't need to raise any minimum wages. You can get a job at McDonald's in any town for at least $15 an hour. In fact, as a side note, our local McDonald's, they'll pay you $15 an hour and give you a free meal on your shift and give you 2 free meals to take home with you. Now, if you think about it, if you're a young person and you're living at home and you've got that kind of money thrown at you, you're going to have a little extra money. So I don't know. Maybe that's where people are getting their money these days. But I don't think it can last. If they keep throwing money, maybe they can come up with some other amazing programs to throw money at people, but I don't think it can last. So I believe there is a huge crash. And by the way, there's already a micro crash. There's already players that you can name right now, like that Zion dude. I promise you, the people laughing at me a year ago for talking about not wanting to buy his cards at those prices, they're not laughing now. So there are many crashes in everything we're doing. But in the overall market, I think you're going to have to see some sort of return to sensibility on the amount of money people have in their pockets. Right now, young people have extra cash to spend.
Yeah. I think the young guys that are single, living with their parents, I'm not bashing, those guys. It's just that, look, you don't have to pay for your mortgage or the rent unless the parents make them pay some part.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, me, I live in the People's Republic of Illinois, so the property taxes are ridiculous where I live. So that property tax is what, $10,000, then there's the mortgage. So like I'm paying about $20,000 for my home, right? So, and I'm married, right? So I have to help my wife out. So I don't have the same disposable income that some of these younger guys have, that are living with their parents. They may have some side job, whatever, or work full time. They can blow that money, not being married and not having to pay a mortgage.
I've got personal experience with my kids. I mean, my oldest son spent $4,000 on a motorcycle, along with another $12,000 on a car, along with a whole host of neat gadgets and trips he's taken, everything else, stuff I could never have dreamed of. And to your point about living with mom and dad and expendable cash, I've been a parent since 2000. And I can assure you, in those 22 years, I have not had giant chunks of change to head down to the baseball card shop and spend $500 a pack on 3 cards in a pack and hope to hit some Hank Aaron or Babe Ruth or, some crazy one of one. So clearly the demographics have changed. All I'm suggesting is it always reverts back to the mean and then drops below. I don't know the day, but there is a day coming when sports cards are going to be hated. Now, someone mentioned that the Hakeem card was a junk card from the 1990s. That may be. Maybe. You see, I like Hakeem Olajuwon as a player. I liked him then. It's a 32-year-old card I can get for less than the cost of grading it. So it's a card I don't have, and I'm going to buy it. I'm also not going to come on YouTube and tell anybody this is some hot, crazy card you're going to finance your kid's college education for.
It's not going to be $100,000 valuation.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay. That's okay.
Pretty sure
we could find something else to pump and dump then. But all jokes aside, so like you said, this thing is going to come tumbling down, and next few years you expect a big crash coming. And
I don't know. When you say big crash, there's already been a crash But do this. You want to see something? You remember Mosaics, 2021 Mosaics?
Mm-hmm.
They were very expensive, very hot, very sought after. You can go on eBay and you can search for lots of those cards. I know because I've picked up lots of those cards of players that I like for pennies. For pennies, what you would have paid in packs. Why? Because although those cards are relatively rare, those weren't the cards people wanted. They wanted the chase cards. So there's lots of mini crashes that are occurring. But in terms of an overall, when is it all going to end? I don't know when that day comes, because in the 90s, it was about 96 to 99 or 2000. And that was a 4-year slump, but it really hasn't been a slump since then. So overall, there's always some new suckers. There's always something else they come up with. I'm just suggesting that people need to be careful with buying, let me say it again, overvalued cards. I'm not saying that cards themselves will never be bought and sold, although it's possible. But I am saying be careful of overvalued cards.
Yep. I'm just thinking like stock market crashes completely, not like the correction that we've seen right now. I'm thinking like a 2008 type meltdown, and sports cards were attractive at that moment. 2008, 2009. If you turn
yes, and by the way, and Rahul,
yeah,
your viewers have no way of knowing this is true. So I'll just say something, and then you'll either back me up or not, but whatever.
Yeah.
From 2008 until 2012, I created 2 websites for people to buy and sell and trade sports cards when sports cards were many magnitudes less expensive than they are now. And I was mocked and flamed and trolled and attacked for being a shill and everything else. So back when it made sense to buy cards on the cheap, I was mocked for it. You were there. You know this. You know I had these websites. And now at these zany prices, it's an investment opportunity. So clearly, although ahead of my time in that way, I didn't figure out a way to make any money on it. Maybe that's my problem.
Yeah. So the time when sports cards become not like 2012, like when you're making websites, but there's a lot more people saying, I'm not going to buy a sports card again. The economy's crashing. I think the government at that time, since the economy is very fragile, they're going to come up something with like UBI, universal basic income, something like that sort. I mean, they're doing it in some cities as a test run. And we know back in 2020, they had all these stimulus checks, and there's also PPP loans. You didn't have to pay your mortgage. If they have that same type of cycle going on and the grading cost is lower, I could see the next bull market where all types of cards go up. I don't know if you see it like that, but it was just a great one-time event for all sports cards to go up. And
I'll tell you what's already happened. The NFT market has already imploded. It has imploded. I don't mean corrected. It's imploded. It didn't take long. So there are things which can completely implode, and it can happen quickly. I'm just suggesting that with sports cards, I think the longevity of that market is so long, the history is so storied, I don't think it's going to go away ever completely. It may go back to where sports cards are like, baseball card shops are like coin shops in about 2000. When you'd walk into a coin shop and it's like you are the only guy in there. There's no women in there at all. And behind the counter is some old dude with suspenders. He's got glasses like mine, except he's got the flip-up things that are like magnifiers. And on the wall, there's a grease board where he's like writing the spot price of precious metals on the wall. And you go in and you can hear the clock ticking, and it seems like it's ticking backwards. And there's dust everywhere. And when you talk to the guy behind the counter, he doesn't want to talk to you. And when he shuffles to the back for whatever reason, his wife comes up front, and she doesn't know anything at all about the coins. In fact, she's embarrassed that she's there in the first place. Card shops will probably have to go back to something like that for your prediction to be true. And it might not happen in your lifetime. It may be a while.
Yeah, I just don't like the way the economy is going. And then just a few other things. I'm just looking at Elliott wave theory. I know Martin Armstrong cycles. I'm just looking at some other trends with the yield curve. It doesn't look nice. I mean, if the economy was more not anti-fragile, but in a better situation, I wouldn't be as bearish longer term. I think we're entering in a new era. It's not like the 1980s, 1990s, and even parts of the 2000s where, everything just went up. Everything's gone up. There's reversion to the mean. So I don't know. We'll see.
So someone in your chat just said,
yeah,
I just invested in Zion. He's coming back healthy. See, I got no problem with that. But I promise you, his cards are not what they were when the hype was what it was. That's all I'm saying. And so scoreboard was correct. Okay, so if you want to invest in him now, okay, go for it. But to look at the prices of 2020 to 2021 and not have at least a vague admission of this is probably a bubble means, again, you're a fool. Here's what it is. 2020 to 21 sports cards is like you going to a poker game and looking around the table and not knowing which of those players is the rube. If you don't know, it is you. And if you looked around in 2020 and 2021 and couldn't see those prices for what they were, then you were a neophyte and you should not have been involved in buying cards. And you're underwater dramatically right now.
Indeed. Okay, we have more minutes, almost the hour mark. Do you have anything else to say to people listening? I know some people here probably haven't seen your videos. I know some people back in the silver and gold days remember you, and they definitely miss your work. But what would you tell people right now, at this stage in the game in sports cards?
Well, I'm a little bit more contemplative about life. So you can call it sports cards, or you can call it investing in anything. It can be your family, your health, your spiritual life, whatever it is you're doing. Every single day, you've got a choice. You can choose to make good decisions. You can choose to filter what you're doing through some parameters. And you don't have to be that guy. You can make better decisions. You can think things through. And, it's like someone told me a long time ago, if you hear someone say, quick, I got to have a gun right now. I need a gun right now. What they really need to do is calm down, relax, and lock the door and think about it. So if you just got to have something right now and you're getting ready to put your money down on it, just stop and think. Anyone watching your videos has the ability to critically think, and I would say do it, and not just with sports cards. Life is short. Don't blow it being a dummy.
Indeed. One last comment. I think you'll get a kick out of this, Don, from Charles. We need Silver Futurist, Raw Dog, Corey C, G4T, and the guys back on YouTube. Any comment? Well, and you yourself, man.
Well, no, I will not be back on YouTube. So that's not happening. Silver Futurist is a guy who really did an about face. He was one of the people early on making videos about me that I was a shill for the bankers. He actually did a video questioning Yahoo Finance had me on a couple episodes to talk about precious metals. And he did videos asking, was I in league with bankers? Well, he's certainly changed, and I've become friends with him, and he's a good guy. And Raw Dog, I don't know what to say about him. He's a smart guy.
He's on Rumble or something, right?
Well, he was on YouTube. He's gone. I don't know about it. He's an interesting guy. I wish him the best. Corey C. Corey C is a guy who he's way more thoughtful and way more contemplative. You've used that word twice in your video here. He's very thoughtful, extremely philosophical, but he comes across sometimes as being more street. He may be street, but he's also a very sincere guy.
What didn't he do marketing work, or didn't he work for DMX at one point?
He did, and I thought about him when DMX died recently. I thought that may have been. I know it was sad for him because I know that Corey, and I don't know if he would be embarrassed of me saying this, but I know that Corey financially helped DMX. I know that Corey reached out to him and tried to help him with his drug problems many times. I mean, Corey's a good guy. So, and then G4T, man.
I think he's back on YouTube.
No, he cannot be.
He's not.
Yeah, I don't know.
I saw some videos. Maybe I'll just send them to you.
If you want to see G4T at his finest, look at the video that I recorded with him. I think it might be one of his last videos, an interview I did with him. I don't even remember what year it was. And before the interview I did with him, I said, listen, you probably want to calm people down. So I'm going to throw some softball questions at you so that you can at least answer them, maybe honestly, but sort of explain yourself a little bit, because you're going to lose your audience and people are going to hate you. He told me flat out, I don't care. I'm going to tell people that they're idiots and that they're suckers for following me. And I said, George, you're making a mistake, but then go back and watch the video and watch me and watch him. It's startling. Now, I don't know what he's doing now, but he was a character.
Yeah, I don't know if he's in Mexico, or I saw some videos, but I have to maybe send it to you, what I saw. But anyways, Don, you've been a great guest. Maybe we could have you back on maybe in the next few months. It was good.
Yeah, I had fun. I've meant to be on a couple times, but my camera, and my internet connection, for a while, I only had a hotspot on my phone, and that didn't work. So now I'm fully internet connected here. So, but I appreciate you having me on. I have nothing to promote or no site to send people to or nothing like that. Just I enjoy talking with you. You're a good guy.
All right, man. Thanks, Don, for coming on again.
Sure. Take care.
Yep.